Hello, this is John Griffin again with part 3 of a series of short videos on the subject of a universal basic income. The first video explained what a UBI is and is not. The second video explained why we need it. This video will discuss the effects that a UBI will have on our society and economy. Throughout the world, there have been a wide variety of pilot programs proposed in order to test the effects of providing various groups with a basic income. A good source of information on these programs can be found in the Wikipedia article at the web address shown here, and also shown in the website that accompanies these videos. Not all of these pilot programs were actually implemented, and those that were varied widely in how the recipients were chosen and in how much they received. Some programs served a surprisingly small number of people, some were too short in duration to show lasting effects, and some offered payments too small to make much difference. Some of the published results indicated that women who left the workforce during the program did so mainly to concentrate on child care. Young recipients showed improved school attendance and graduation rates. Health effects were positive, and stress and anxiety were often reduced. Negative effects seemed to be rare to non-existent. However, I believe all of these pilot programs have one thing in common. They are all irrelevant. While sociologists may well be interested in the effects of a UBI, society has no justification for deciding to offer or refuse payments based on those pilot studies. As I pointed out in the 2 prior videos, every citizen owns a share of our societal infrastructure and has an irrevocable right to be paid when that infrastructure is used. That payment should be in the form of a universal basic income. Refusing to pay someone their share of the UBI is like telling a person who has inherited a dividend-paying security that he won't receive his dividend because some authority thinks he might not use it properly. While I firmly believe that every citizen is entitled to their share of the UBI, regardless of how they will use it, I also believe that a UBI will have many positive effects, and I will list some of those effects in no particular order. Number 1, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the official poverty level for an individual as of January 2020 is $12,760 of yearly income. That comes to just under $1,065 per month. If we set the UBI payment at that level, we will officially eliminate poverty in this country overnight. The official poverty level for a couple is only $4,480 more per year. So giving a couple 2 full UBI payments would place them nicely above the poverty level. Eliminating poverty in this manner is not a new idea. It has been debated for decades and was supported by conservative economists like Frederick Hayek and Milton Friedman, and also by progressives such as Martin Luther King Jr. Eliminating poverty with a UBI is an admirable goal, and I will show in the next video that it is also an achievable goal. Number 2, as I write the narrative for these videos, demonstrations are going on across the country to protest the killing of George Floyd, a black man in Minneapolis. These protests bring the plight of minority citizens into the nation's consciousness. According to the U.S. Census, in 2014, 10% of white non-Hispanic Americans lived in poverty, but that number was 26% for black Americans and 28% for Native Americans. With all adult citizens receiving a UBI, this poverty would disappear overnight, along with much of the fear and desperation that accompanies it. But just as importantly, the UBI would serve as a statement that all ethnic groups are equal in their ownership of our societal infrastructure. This could go a long way toward easing racial tensions. Number 3, As I mentioned in video number 2, a UBI might just be necessary in order to save capitalism. For over 30 years, we have been promised that a supply-side, trickle-down economy will benefit everyone. But the reality has been fewer worthwhile jobs and increasing income and wealth inequality. A UBI will give all recipients a stake in our economy and diffuse much of the resentment caused by that rising inequality. Otherwise, these economic trends will continue and the people will take increasingly desperate measures until their needs are met. These measures could eventually result in the replacement of capitalism with a system that benefits no one. Number 4, a UBI gives each citizen an increased ability to purchase the goods and services created by the economy. Without that demand, the economy will not create the supply. Economists have long recognized that the best way to stimulate an economy is to give the stimulus money to the poorest members of society. They have so many needs that they will spend the money immediately. The wealthy are likely to just add the money to their savings. So an excellent argument can be made that a UBI will increase economic output. Furthermore, any entrepreneur or business person worthy of the name should view these newly empowered consumers as an opportunity to increase sales by more than enough to offset the amount that they paid toward the UBI. Number 5, a UBI should provide enough economic freedom that an individual will have no need to accept a demeaning or otherwise undesirable job simply because they are in desperate need of money. I often wonder, after receiving an annoying call from a telemarketer, why the caller chose to do that kind of work. Maybe the job was the only one available and the caller simply needed the money. Perhaps a UBI will give people the freedom to refuse such work and spend their time on work that is valuable to their community. For example, youth programs, ecological projects, elder care, etc. In this way, a UBI can provide everyone a greater sense of community. Number 6, a UBI should provide enough economic freedom that a person should not need to enter into an undesirable relationship simply because they need the financial support of another person. A person would then have the freedom to choose the people with whom they associate. Number 7, I'm writing the narrative for this video in the midst of an economy severely hobbled by the coronavirus pandemic. In response, Congress has voted huge amounts of stimulus to support people who have no savings and whose income has suddenly disappeared. In addition, various agencies struggle to get the allocated money to the intended recipients. If a UBI already existed, there would be little need for such desperate measures. Number 8, a UBI can provide enough economic freedom to enable people to pursue further education and training so that they can qualify for one of the better jobs that still remain. It can also provide the financial cushion and confidence that a person needs to consider starting a business. And last but not least, a UBI can help to reduce political division within the country. Much political animosity is driven by fear. Fear that our country is moving in a direction that will leave many of us unable to support ourselves and our families. Fear that we may be living on the street and standing in line at food pantries. A UBI can alleviate that kind of fear and the associated political divisions. Of course, we can always add more items to this list of positive effects of a UBI, and I invite the viewer to engage in that very discussion. But I will stop here, as I think the point has been made. As for negative effects, one question is frequently asked. Will the UBI result in so much money being distributed that producers will take advantage of it by raising prices? The straightforward answer is no. That should not happen. If we fully pay for the UBI with existing money, then inflationary expansion of the money supply will not be necessary. In fact, many claim that the same advances in automation that made the UBI necessary in the first place will continue to reduce the cost of our goods and services so consumer prices will actually go down. Of course, some will say that I have failed to mention the main negative effect of a UBI, its cost. Fear not, I will address that issue and how we will pay for the UBI at some length in the next video. Once again, I direct your attention to the companion website for these videos. The address of that website is pinned directly below. And once again, I thank you for watching.